What starts developing eventually? One second. Okay, end-stage renal disease. Okay, so that's what happens. So they start developing end-stage renal disease. Okay. Now let's see what happens. So how do we classify these cystic diseases? Okay, so we'll begin with the first, which is polycystic kidney disease. So polycystic kidney disease could be either the autosomal dominant adult polycystic kidney disease, it could be the infantile, okay, it could be the infantile, or it could be basically your autosomal recessive childhood polycystic kidney disease, okay. Then it could also be your medullary cystic disease, cystic diseases which are pertaining to your medulla, wherein you have the medullary sponge kidney or the nephropathiasis. Then you can even develop, cystic renal dysplasia, or you could have the simple cyst of the kidney or cysts which are associated with dialysis. Okay. So for you, the most important one, which you all should be knowing, is basically the polycystic kidney disease. Okay, polycystic kidney disease. So when I say polycystic kidney disease, what you have to know initially is that there are two types of polycystic kidney disease which you are going to encounter. One, which is the adult autosomal dominant polycystic kidney disease, which you're going to see only in the adult life. Though it begins in childhood, okay, but the kidney function is retained, and it comes to clinical attention only by the fourth to the fifth decade. The second one is the childhood or the autosomal recessive polycystic kidney disease, which is of different types. And depending upon the type, either in Italy or in the birth or in the juvenile phase. So let's begin with polycystic kidney disease. Now, why have I put this diagram? Just see the last one, the orange one, okay? If you see this diagram, okay, you see multiple cysts on the surface of the kidney, multiple cysts bulging out from the surface of the kidney, right? Why is this important? This is important because this is the classical presentation of autosomal dominant adult polycystic kidney disease, okay? This is the classical example of adult polycystic kidney disease. Okay, let's see what happens here. Start writing in the chat box whatever I'm asking, okay? So what does this orange kidney signify? It started with multiple cysts on the surface. So what is it? This is the classical picture of which type of kidney disease? Which type of polycystic kidney disease? Is it the adult polycystic kidney disease or the childhood polycystic kidney disease? You may get a difference on adult kidney disease and child disease. This is the first difference which you're going to encounter, right? The gross appearance is entirely different in both. In the adult polycystic kidney disease, you have multiple cysts which are present on the surface of the kidney, right? And the surface of the kidney is completely distorted. The kidney becomes huge in size, okay? It starts weighing up to 4 kg, right? What is the normal weight of the kidney? What is the normal weight of the adult kidney? Write it down in the chat box. Normal weight of the adult kidney. I want the answer. What is the normal weight of the adult kidney? How many grams or kilograms does the normal? Very good. So it weighs 150 grams. Okay, it weighs 150 grams. So if there's somebody suffering from autosomal dominant adult polycystic kidney disease, the kidney starts weighing up to 4 kg. Okay, it starts weighing up to 4 kg. So let's see what happens now in this. So we have the autosomal dominant adult polycystic kidney disease. Now this is hereditary. Obviously, this is going to be hereditary. And as the name suggests, this is autosomal dominant. This is autosomal dominant. That means even if you have one defective allele, you are going to develop this disease. But what exactly happens in this is that the other normal allele also has to get defective for the disease to develop, right? So what's happening is it's a very common polycystic kidney disease, affects one in every 400 live births. You have multiple cysts in your entire renal parenchyma. The entire renal parenchyma eventually gets destroyed. And as the renal parenchyma gets destroyed by the age of 50, the patient surface of the kidney, how does the kidney look like if you have autosomal dominant adult polycystic kidney disease? I want the answer. Does the kidney enlarge in size? Number one. If yes, what is the external appearance of adult polycystic kidney? I'm not getting to see your answers. Against the one which was written. Is the kidney enlarging in size? Number one. If yes, what's the external surface of the kidney? Start writing it down in the chat box. Okay, surface is distorted. Very good. And the size is enlarged. Okay, you have multiple cysts present on the surface. Good. And the kidney can weigh up to 4 kg. Okay, and this is an autosomal dominant disease. And as the disease progresses, the entire renal parenchyma gets destroyed, and eventually the person lands up with end-stage renal disease. Yes, and there are mutations. Am I audible now? Okay. And there are mutations in the PKD1 and the PKD2 gene. So let's see what is PKD1 gene. PKD1 gene is located on chromosome 16p13.3. This is responsible for encoding polycystin. This is responsible for encoding polycystin, right? Now, this polycystin is expressed in the tubular epithelial cells. It is expressed in your tubules, especially in the distal nephron. What is the function of polycystin? This is responsible for cell-cell-cell matrix interactions. This is responsible for cell-cell and cell matrix interaction. Similarly, the PKD2 gene, which is present on chromosome number 4, encodes for polycystin. So both these genes, whether it's PKD1 or PKD2, this is responsible for cell-cell-cell matrix interaction, right? So if this gene is defective, what is going to happen to your cell-cell and cell matrix interaction? What's going to happen now if this gene eventually gets defective? Okay, what's going to happen if this gene is defective? The cell-cell-cell matrix interaction becomes defective. Yes, there's going to be a weak interaction. There's going to be weak interaction between different cells and cell matrix. So when there is defective interaction because of this defective gene, there's also going to be altered calcium flux. Okay, the ion channels also become defective. So whatever the reason be, whether it's the ion channel which is getting defective or there is going to be defective cell matrix interaction happening at the level of cilias, there is going to be abnormal cell proliferation. There is going to be abnormal extracellular matrix. And because of the defective ion influx, there is going to be secretion of fluid. ठीक है, cell matrix interaction defective हो गया आपका, उसकी वजह से extracellular matrix abnormal हो गया, उसकी वजह से जो आपके epithelial cells थे वो defective हो गए, उनका proliferation start हो गया, right? And because there's a defective ion influx also taking place at the same time, because this mutation is also going to affect your ion interactions. When the ion influx gets defective, there is going to be extensive fluid accumulation. So all these three are going to result in what? They are going to result in the formation of multiple cysts in your kidney. So when you have multiple cysts in your kidney, what's going to happen? It's going to actually damage your renal parenchyma. When a renal parenchyma gets damaged, your tubules get damaged, your interstitium gets damaged, your glomerulus gets damaged, and your vessels get damaged. So eventually, the patient is going to land into what? The patient is going to land into end-stage renal disease, right? So see what's happening, okay? Various factors are going to take place. There's going to be abnormal cell matrix interaction, right? There's going to be abnormal cell proliferation. There's going to be abnormal extracellular matrix, formation. There's going to be defective cilia malfunction. At the same time, there's going to be defective ion exchange mechanism. So all this is going to eventually result in what? Fluid secretion, extensive cell proliferation, abnormal extracellular matrix, and all this is going to form what? It's going to form a cyst in the kidney. It's eventually going to form a cyst in the kidney. And as you can see here, you have a kidney here. Look at the surface of the kidney. It started with multiple cysts. It becomes huge. The patient comes to you with a huge abdomen, okay? Patient comes to you with a huge abdomen. You have multiple cysts present in the surface of the kidney, right? You have multiple, what do you call, the kidney is enlarged in size. It starts weighing 4 kgs. So all these problems are going to start in your kidney, right? So let's see what happens. This is how exactly it looks like. See, the entire parenchyma is gone. Can you make out in this? Where is the cortex and where is the medulla? Can you make out here? Where is the cortex and the medulla of the kidney? No, you cannot make out. What you are seeing? What are you seeing? Multiple cysts in the kidney. Mucoidish material है उसके अंदर, ठीक है? So your entire kidney is gone. Why? Because the cell matrix interaction was abnormal. There was extensive cellular tubular proliferation. There was abnormal extracellular matrix, and there was extensive fluid secretion. So all these have, culminated together, and what we have got is multiple cysts filling the entire kidney, replacing your entire kidney, right? So let's see what happens. Now, if you have these cysts, replacing your entire kidney, what should your microscopy be like? What should you be seeing on microscope? You're going to see multiple cysts, and since they can arise from any part of the kidney, they could be lined by flattened cells, they could be lined by cuboidal cells, they could be lined by columnar cells, right? So let's see what happens on the microscopy here. So this is your kidney, okay? So this is what? The entire kidney is gone. What you have is a cyst. Look at the lining of the cyst. It's simple cuboidal. It could be columnar, it could be anything, because the cyst could arise from any part of your, right? Okay. So now, besides this, what happens is it's not just, there's a defect in the polysystem which is responsible for cell matrix interactions. So it's not just your kidney which gets affected. Wherever in the body you have this polysystem, there's going to be some abnormality which is going to come into picture. So this polysystem is also expressed in your liver, spleen, pancreas, and lungs. So you also start seeing cysts in the liver, in the spleen, in the pancreas, and in the lungs. At the same time, you start developing baryoaneurysms in the circle of Willis. So when you start developing baryoaneurysms in the circle of Willis, there could be some kind of, hemorrhage. You could even eventually get subarachnoid, hemorrhages also. And since this polysystem is also present in your mitral valves, the person also starts presenting to you with valvular abnormalities, especially mitral valve prolapse, right? And clinically, the patient is going to come to you with involvement of the kidneys, and eventually the patient is going to land up with end stage renal disease. Is this clear to all of you? Is adult polycystic kidney disease clear to you? If yes, then we move on to the childhood polycystic kidney disease. Okay. Okay, the cyst is filled with fluid. It could even have blood. It could even have serous fluid. कुछ भी हो सकता है उसके अंदर, ठीक है? Obviously, because आपका ion exchange defective है, extensive fluid secrete होगा, ठीक है? Sometimes it could be hemorrhagic. I'll repeat the microscopy. For microscopy, what you have to know is that, since the cyst can arise from any part of the kidney, it can arise from any part of the kidney, right? So what happens is the lining epithelium could be cuboidal, like your tubular cells. It could even become columnar. कुछ भी हो सकता है, but mostly since the cyst, the origin of the cyst is from the tubules, and eventually they involve the entire kidney. So most commonly, the lining of the cyst is going to be simple cuboidal. Is it understood? Have you understood this? Inner part of the cyst can be fibrous. कुछ भी हो सकता है. You may have some remnants, some nephrons also in that. You could even have some glomeruli in the inner wall of the cyst. Mostly you will have just fibrosis. Okay, so you'll just say that the cyst is lined by cuboidal cell, could be lined by columnar cell. The lumen of the cyst is going to have clear fluid, it could have serous fluid, it could have hemorrhaging, right? Okay, okay. So now we come to the autosomal. There's a mistake here. It's actually autosomal recessive. Okay, so it's autosomal recessive childhood polycystic kidney disease. So look at this. This is autosomal recessive. Both alleles have to be defective for the development of this disease, right? Now, in this, what you have to know is that there is a mutation in the PKHD1 gene. PKHD1 gene, which encodes fibrocystin. It encodes fibrocystin. ठीक है? वो polycystin encode कर रहा था. अगर दोनों में difference आता, you'll have to make a tabular column and write down. This is encoding for fibrocystin. ठीक है? Now, this is classically of four types. It could be perinatal, something which you are born with. It could be neonatal. It could be infantile. It could be juvenile. ठीक है? So this fibrocystin, okay, is a protein which is responsible for your collecting duct differentiation and for the differentiation of your biliary epithelium. Okay? This is responsible for the differentiation of collecting duct and for the differentiation of biliary epithelium. Okay? Now, just write down fast in the chat box. If this is responsible for the differentiation of your collecting duct and biliary epithelium, where all are you going to see the defects in this disease? What all organs are going to be classically affected if the child presents with childhood polycystic autosomal recessive kidney disease? So liver and the kidney. Very good. Okay. So let's see what happens in this. Kidney and one second. Okay. So the child will come to you with multiple cysts in the kidney. At the same time, the child is going to come to you with congenital hepatic fibrosis because the fibrocystin is going to actually be responsible for this particular manifestation, right? So let's see what happens. Grossly, see, look at this. What is the difference between this picture and the picture of adult polycystic kidney disease? Start writing in the chat box. Is the surface of the kidney maintained in childhood kidney? Is the surface of the kidney maintained in this or not? Look at the outline of the kidney. Look at the outline of the kidney. Yes, the surface is maintained in this. This is the most important difference. Okay, the surface is maintained in this. On cut section, you have multiple cysts in the cortex and the medulla, right? You have multiple cysts in the cortex and the medulla. Okay, now what's happening here? Just tell me. What does this remind you of? Reminds you of what? It reminds you of a kidney will be slightly enlarged, surface is maintained, but what does this appearance remind you of? Multiple tiny cysts. Sponge, very good. This reminds you of the sponge. So the cut section of the kidney is like a sponge. The cut section of the kidney is like a sponge. You have elongated channels, and these channels are usually present at right angles to the cortex, and your entire kidney gets replaced by these cysts, and it looks like a sponge. Now, which part of the kidney was the fibrocystin being expressed in? Which part of the Hello? Am I audible now? Okay, so now we move on to what is called as the cystic diseases of the medulla. So what you have to remember is that when we discuss about the cystic diseases of the medulla, you're going to get your cysts particularly in the medullary region. Okay, initially what we saw was basically the polycystic kidney disease where you get your cysts both in the cortex and the medulla. But now what you're going to see is that you're going to get your cysts more in the medulla. Okay, so we have two types of cystic diseases of the medulla. One is the medullary sponge kidney, right? In which you have cystic dilatations of the collecting ducts in the medulla. And these cysts are lined by the transitional and the cuboidal epithelium, right? And the second, what you have to get is basically nephronophysis. Okay, in this, what happens is you have cysts in the medulla, but these cysts which you see in the medulla are more so concentrated in the corticomedullary junction, right? You get to see these cysts more so in the corticomedullary junction. The kidney, because of the cyst, because you're getting these cysts, the function of the kidney is going to be lost, right? The kidneys are going to be granular, they're going to be contracted, right? And these cysts, which you see in the kidney now, are going to be lined by flattened cells, lined by cuboidal cells, and these are going to be surrounded by inflammatory cells and fibrosis, right? Okay, this is important. Because you won't get a question on this, but you should be knowing about this particular entity. Okay, so there's something which is called as multicystic renal dysplasia, right? Multicystic renal dysplasia, right? So as you can make out from the name, okay, what are you going to see in this particular lesion? What do you expect to see in this lesion? Multicystic means what do you see? Start writing in the chat box. Do you see a solid kidney or do you see a cystic kidney? And if you see a cystic kidney, do you see a single cyst or do you see multiple cysts? Multiple cysts. Okay. So you get to see multiple cysts in the kidney. Okay. Now, this can be unilateral, bilateral. The kidney will be enlarged, it will be cystic, and it is going to be irregular, right? What do you classically see in this disease is that you get to see collecting ducts, which will have a very primitive appearance. And along with that, you are going to see cartilage. So on microscopy, if you see cartilage and if you see primitive looking, right, primitive looking ducts, then you know that you're dealing with multicystic renal dysplasia. Okay? Kidney will be enlarged, kidney will be cystic, you will have multiple cysts. Microscopically, classically, you're going to see cartilage, and along with cartilage, you're going to see these primitive looking, right? These very, primitive looking ducts in the kidney, right? Whenever you have a child who has multicystic renal dysplasia, you should also be actually examining the child for other anomalies of the urinary tract. So what are the other anomalies? There could be ureteral agenesis, or there could be some obstruction at the level of the ureter with the pelvis of the kidney, right? If you see multicystic renal dysplasia, please examine the child for other urinary abnormalities. That's very, very important, right? Besides this, you can get cystic diseases if the patient is on long-term dialysis. It's quite known. And these patients who develop cysts and who are on long-term dialysis also have a chance of developing carcinomas of the kidney, which we will discuss in the next class, right? Besides this, you also have simple cysts of the kidney, which are absolutely benign and they can be incidental findings in life. So nothing has to be done with that, right? So if you get a question on cystic disease of the kidney, please start with the classification and go on to explain the different cysts. The most important from your point of view is going to be the polycystic kidney disease, which you should know both individually, and at the same time, you should also be able to mention if there's a difference asked on the tool. So is this clear to you? Any doubts on cystic disease of the kidney? Please mention in the chat box so that I can proceed further. I hope I'm audible. The connection is not lost again. Is this clear? Any doubts? Please let me know if you have any doubts. Okay. So you will have a small group discussion today by Dr. Ankita, where she's actually going to tell you, she's going to discuss some questions with you based on the same, and then she revises the same thing with you again. Okay. So now somebody's asking, ma'am, can you please tell the spongy kidney? Okay, I'll go back to that just a second. See, what you get in childhood polycystic kidney disease, you have multiple small cysts, okay, in your kidney. In the childhood polycystic kidney disease, these cysts are going to arise primarily from your collecting duct. So when you get these tiny multiple cysts in the kidney, okay, it's not going to distort the surface of the kidney. When you cut your kidney slice, what you see is multiple tiny cysts, and the kidney looks like a sponge. So we call this as what? We also call this kidney has the appearance of a sponge-like look on cut section. Okay, this has the sponge-like look on the cut section. This is the appearance of childhood polycystic kidney disease. And when I talk of medullary diseases, then you get medullary sponge kidney, in which you get cysts in the kidney, but your cysts are going to be more so where? They're going to be more in the medulla. Okay, you're going to get cysts more in the medulla. So the cortex is spared here, and you're getting multiple tiny cysts in the medulla. So we call this as the medullary because you get the cyst in the medulla. Sponge because these cysts are very tiny. So we call this as the medullary sponge kidney. Is this clear to you? Is this clear to you or not? One second, I think you've written something. Okay. So now we just discussed the stones. Dr. Ankita will be covering in a greater detail. And this is something which all of you already know. Okay, so I'll just brush through this because we've almost come to the end of the lecture. So we have renal stones, okay? So all of you have come across patients who have renal stones, right? So a renal stone is something which you should know. It can be asked as a question, right? What is the classical presentation of a patient who has kidney stone? How does the patient of a kidney stone present to you? Okay, let's see what you've written. Okay, so patients are going to come to you with back pain. Patients are going to come to you with colicky pain. Patients can have dysuria. What else? Hematuria, flank pain. And if the stone is big enough, it can even obstruct the flow of urine, right? It can even obstruct the flow of urine. And if it obstructs the flow of urine, you start getting obstructive uropathy, right? So stone in the kidney, in the ureter particularly, at the pelviureteric junction is a cause of obstruction to the flow of urine. It's a cause of obstruction to the flow of urine. So when the urine gets obstructed, obviously, the pelvis of the kidney gets dilated, okay? Any other cause which can cause obstruction to the flow of urine besides stones? Okay, stones can cause UTI is good. Any other condition which can cause obstruction? Very good. Tumor. What tumor can cause obstruction to the flow of urine? Okay, benign prostatic hyperplasia. Very good. Okay, you can have stones, you can have strictures, you can have benign prostatic hyperplasia, you can have carcinoma of the bladder. Okay, very good. Then you can have stones in the bladder as well. There could be pregnancy, there could be all these conditions are eventually going to cause obstruction to the flow of urine. So when there's going to be obstruction to the flow of urine, obviously the patient is going to have stasis of urine. There is going to be hydronephrosis. The kidney's pelvis gets dilated. There is going to be presence of infections. There is going to be presence of infections, right? So I'm going to be talking about the stones of kidney, okay, now with you. So the other name for renal stones is urolithiasis. The other name is urolithiasis, right? And this is something which you see more in men as compared to women. And this is mostly seen in the second and third decade of life, right? This is mostly seen in the second and third decade of life. Most of the times, you won't find any particular cause. You won't find any particular cause, but many a times, stones are seen in people who are suffering from certain hereditary disorders such as excessive cysteine production or excessive uric acid production, right? So what are the different types of stones? Kidney stones are of four types. You have the calcium stones, which are composed of calcium oxalate and phosphate. You have the struvite stones. What do you understand? Very good. Metabolic conditions always. Okay, what are struvite stones? Phosphate stones. Okay. Very good. Okay. What are they composed of? They are composed of what? They're composed of magnesium, they're composed of phosphate, and they're composed of ammonium. Okay. So you have the calcium stones, which is calcium oxalate stones mostly. And this is seen. This could be idiopathic. You may not find out the reason for the stone, the calcium stones. Many a times, what we have observed is this is seen in people who are suffering from hypercalcemia, hypercalciuria. It's seen in people who are suffering from probably it could be idiopathic hypercalciuria as well. And many a times it is also seen in people who are suffering from hyperuricosuriia. Even people with high levels of uric acid can also develop calcium stones. But many times there is no underlying cause in such patients. Okay. Then you have your struvite stones, which is the magnesium ammonium phosphate stones. This is seen in people who get infection. Somebody's already written the answer. It's seen in people who get infection, especially with Proteus bacteria. So what does this Proteus bacteria do in the body? It converts urea to ammonia. So when it converts urea to ammonia, what happens to the pH of the urine? Once the Proteus converts urea into ammonia, the pH of the urine becomes alkaline. The pH of the urine becomes alkaline. So when the pH of the urine becomes alkaline, it causes precipitation of magnesium ammonium phosphate. It causes precipitation of magnesium ammonium phosphate. In fact, many a times, in fact, many a times it is so bad. Okay, it is so bad. The stone becomes so bad it starts forming what is called as the Staghorn calculi. So what is Staghorn calculi? When it takes the impression of the entire pelvis. Okay, it occupies the entire pelvis. It starts taking the impression of the entire pelvis, and what you get is the Staghorn calculi. See, for this, what you have to do is you have to go about doing your nephrectomies for such patients, right? So this is what happens with this. Then you have what is called as uric acid stones. Uric acid stones are seen in people who have gout. Okay, many times it could be seen in people who have the background. Somebody switch on the audio. Please switch off your audio. There's a lot of disturbance. I cannot talk like this. Please switch off your audio. Everybody switch off your audio. Okay. So you can have uric acid stones. So when I say uric acid stones, it's seen in people with, increased uric acid, people who present with gout. It can be seen in people who have a very rapid cell turnover, such as leukemias, lymphomas, malignancies. With many of the patients, there is no underlying cause, right? And then you have cysteine stones, which is usually caused because of metabolic defects in the cysteine metabolism. So whatever the reason be, okay, the most important thing that you have to know is that for the stone formation to take place, okay, there has to be reduction in the urine volume. There has to be increased precipitation, okay, of the stone constituent. There may be infection by some bacteria, and most important, what happens is that there is an alteration in the pH of the urine. The urine pH has to get altered. The flow of the urine has to decrease. You may or may not have any infection, and there has to be precipitation of the primary stone component in the urine for the stone formation to take place. Right? That is what you should be knowing. Right? Stones can be could be single, could be multiple, they could be unilateral, could be bilateral, right? And these stones, if they take the impression of the entire pelvis, then you call it as the Staghorn calculi, right? So this is about the cystic diseases. This is a bit about the causes of obstruction to the flow of urine and also about the stones in the kidney. If you have any, please go through this. If you have any doubts, we have another last lecture on kidney on Monday, which is going to be about renal tumors and the urothelial tumors. If you have any doubts in the topics covered till now, please ask me on Monday, and please go through tumors of the kidney and the pelvis before you come for the next class. Any doubts till now? Any doubts till now? I'll just show that slide to you. It's exactly what I just spoke. Okay. The same thing. Calcium stones are made up of calcium oxalate. You could even get calcium phosphate, right? Could be seen in people who are hyperparathyroid. Many times there is no cause. Uric acid stones are formed in people, especially who have more amount of protein in the diet, people who have gout, and people who have acidic urine, right? Struvite stones basically are associated with proteus infection. What you get is a staghorn calculi, right? And you'll have to probably remove the entire kidney for the treatment. And cystine and struvite stones are formed in alkaline urine. Cystine stones occur in people who have defect in the cystine metabolism, right? It's the same thing which I just spoke. Any doubts? Okay, you want adult autosomal recessive polycystic kidney. I'll show that to you. Okay. Look at this now, okay? Look at this now. This is the adult polycystic kidney disease, right? And this, if you see, okay, if you see carefully, okay, look at this. This is the adult polycystic kidney disease. And if you see this one, okay, look at this. You have the cysts, okay? Here in the childhood polycystic kidney disease, these cysts are supposed to be vertical. So if you see this cyst, okay, cysts are going to be at a right angle to the cortex. So you see cysts at a right angle to the cortex. But eventually what happens is that these tiny cysts, you have these cysts here, you have these cysts here, which are tiny cysts, okay, and they are, if you draw a line on these cysts, this line is perpendicular to the line of the cortex. So the cysts are going to be perpendicular to the cortex, and in this autosomal recessive polycystic kidney disease, you are not going to get distortion of the kidney surface, and these multiple cysts in your kidney, which are particularly collecting duct, are going to give rise to
new classification
medullary. It is going to give rise to it mimics the sponge of the kidney. Ankita, you switch on your mic. It's audible. Switch off your mic.